everybody, it's Kimberly here and welcome back to my channel. Thanks for watching and liking and subscribing. And I'm really thankful that I have so many people who are still around and watching, even though I have been quiet and silent for so long. So thank you for coming back. As if you watched my last video, you probably know that I am planning on probably posting more videos now, and for at least for the time being. And I do have a lot of things I'd like to share. So first of all, explanation for Arya's Insights. My name is Kimberly, but I do go by Arya, which is also the name of my higher self. And over the last, I would say the last year especially, I have begun to do a lot of channeling of my higher self. And I want to just talk a little bit about that process because it actually features into a lot of what it is I'm going to be bringing in that I'm going to be announcing shortly here on this channel about the project I'm doing. And really the idea is that everybody has, of course, as you know, we all have an intuition, and our intuition is really just the process by which we tap into our higher knowing or our higher knowledge, our higher mind, our higher self, our subconscious mind. So there's a lot of different terms for it. And you know, when I first began my journey of awakening, which really began for me in an aware state of awakening, was 2014 when I met my twin up in Anchorage, Alaska, somebody from my past that I was brought back into contact with. And really in after, you know, he came and then went out of my life, it was so, you know, like I was reeling and I had no idea what the hell was happening to me. And I was looking for answers. And so what's interesting is that at that point, like, I didn't even go to YouTube for answers then. I didn't really know. I knew of YouTube, but I didn't know that it was such a, you know, wealth of information. But even at that time, there was hardly anybody talking about twin flames on YouTube. I don't think there was even such a thing at that point. And it was just very beginning of information was coming out about that. And of course, I did, and Universe brought me some information in that regard to help me kind of, you know, get a better grasp of what I was going through. But like many other people on the twin flame journey, I really got, I think, what I would say, I don't know that it was sidetracked or that it was overly much, because everything is meant to happen for a reason. But it really has been more into my more recent experience that I really came to understand that being a twin flame or having a divine beloved pathway is just kind of a small aspect of what we're really all here for, which is ascension. Earth is, it's all scientific. This is based on, you know, some super exciting information that if you do watch some of my previous videos I posted about a year ago, I do talk about, you know, kind of the science behind that, which is not, you know, really it's certainly not in the mainstream of information, but I found that fascinating because we're really going through something that is, it's really real. And, but then what does that look like on a daily basis? And so in the beginning of my process of becoming awakened and aware, I started delving into my intuition and starting to trust it. And I don't know about you, but I think that in general, most human beings on Earth are being majorly suppressed through many methods of, you know, our surrounding and how we live and grow up, which suppress to be able to tap into our higher knowing or even really understand that we have one. Now, I do know that many people are born and have kind of a different environment at home that protects that and teaches them to tap into it and teaches them that, you know, within inside of you, you have this ability to tap into so much more knowledge and information than, you know, you see in the physical world, and it's just something you learn to trust. But I didn't have that growing up. In fact, I had the very opposite due to my family's belief in religion and that the Bible is really God's only word to us, and we can pray to God. And there was a little bit of this idea within our, you know, religion that, you know, God can influence us and speak to us in certain ways. And so there was a little bit of this idea of faith and trust in something, but it was kind of like, if it's not in the Bible and if it's not taught specifically in the Bible also, then you shouldn't trust it. Like, it really could be Satan talking to you, and you really have to be careful because he's always out there trying to deceive us, and we can't always know what's coming through that's really of divine origin. And so in, you know, the practical sense, my intuition had actually been inhibited and held back. And so when I began my journey of awakening, I had maybe about a month or two before I discovered about twin flames, I had started, my interest was piqued in astrology. And again, this is all it was very, new things for me to be exploring because of my background in religion. And of course, astrology was considered to be just, basically another tool of the devil. And so it wasn't something, I was ever into. But then here I was starting to research it and read a lot about it. And I was totally fascinated. Because I'd been doing a lot of research about astrology, I also would see advertisements all the time for Psychic Hotline. And in fact, the one in particular that I kept seeing was Keen. And so when I finally got to the point where I was desperate for any kind of solution to this inability that I had to get over this person and what the hell is going on, I decided I don't know where else to turn to but a psychic hotline. And so I called one. I called Keen, and I talked to Stephanie, and her reading was amazing. She used tarot cards. And, I was just blown away. And so I went down to an antique store down the street from where I worked, walked in, said, hey, do you guys have any tarot cards? Because I didn't even know where to buy tarot cards. I didn't know they sold tarot cards at a bookstore that was, down the road the other way. And so they're like, well, maybe we have some. We'll go back in the back and look. And sure enough, they came out with a deck of cards, which became my very first deck of tarot cards. And so that's how I began the process of tapping into my higher knowing. And what's really interesting is that, the real idea behind tapping into your higher knowing is actually bridging your conscious mind or your ego mind and getting into your higher mind. So Aria's insights here really are things that have come through to me, either in my meditation or through channeling or just now, like even when I'm hiking especially, I'll have, what I would call a download or whatever. And I really understand that it's truly, my higher self coming through, but I have opened up that channel so much that now it comes through quite easily instead of always having to use tarot cards or something else. But tarot cards are a really great way for a beginner to start tapping into their own intuition. And the reason is that the tarot card is represented, and you guys probably all know this, so I'm not really giving you new information, but this is directly connected with the project I'm going to be doing, or I'm beginning to do already, and that I'll be talking to you guys all about later. So I do want to talk about this now in the terms of why tarot is such a great entry point for people who are newly waking up to begin to deliberately tap into their higher knowing for messages. Because it is a process. I would say that like most people have, here we are as a human being, and I'm a better artist than this, but on the fly I'm not. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but I've got a little stick person here. Here I am, and I'm like, la-di-da, I'm going along, and all I know is this world around me that I see, and it's the 3D world. And it's all in a certain frequency. The 3D world is like it's a specific vibration, and it has a range. There's like lower frequencies of the 3D world, and there's higher frequencies and higher frequencies. But as long as you're tuned into this 3D world, that's what you're going to see. So when you're tuned into those frequencies, you're going to see the 3D world. Now, if this person right here had the conscious ability to tune into a higher frequency, then they actually get into fourth dimension. Whoops, I just wrote a 3. They get into the fourth dimension, and that actually is still something that's visible within the 3D realm. But the 4D is actually, it's a higher frequency still. Actually, I should have made those in smaller waves. But anyway, it's a higher frequency. And most people on Earth are beginning to tune into 4D. And 4D is simply the fact that you're more enlightened in consciousness and aware, and your connection with others and love, and the themes of the 4D is higher than subsistence living. The third dimension is all about subsistence living, just barely surviving and what it takes to survive. And 4D is like, well, wait a minute, we're all connected, we're all on a journey together, and there's more. There's spirituality, there's love, and things like that. So that's the 4D. But if you could tune into even higher dimensions, into the frequencies, and you're still in your 3D physical form, but mentally your mind is able to tune into the 5D frequencies that are up here, then, you know, this is what we talk about when we are speaking of multidimensionality. And this is something that actually being able to tune in from 3 and then go into 4D in your thinking, and then eventually into 5D in your thinking, that's what Ascension is. And so this really is the process of Ascension, when we're finally able to tune so much into the 5th dimensional frequencies and hold on to that frequency and really, you know, be in it completely, even in our physical 3D body, 4D body, then we actually, our frequency is high enough to actually transition into our higher etheric body, which is a, you know, at a higher frequency. It actually is a different composition, and we will literally come to the point where we just switch our consciousness into that body, which we're actually already doing. So this is something that in my channeling sessions, which I do on my own, but I also do sessions where I work with Lisa from Green Woman Wisdom, and I really highly recommend her. You know, we're such good friends that we're just trading services basically and talking to each other all the time. But I do card readings for her, and then we do channeling together, or she does healing sessions with me. And in that process, one of the things that did come through very specifically was I was being frustrated. I actually asked a lot of questions. I was doing a lot of questions about, you know, moving into the 5th dimension, and when is it going to happen, and what does that look like, and you know, when will that take place, and why can't we do it now, you know, kind of thing. And Arya said, she says, you go into your 5th dimensional body all the time, because that was one of the questions I had. I said, well, does this physical body change into, like, or, you know, because I heard a lot of people talk about our DNA changing and things like that, which it is, because it's actually, you know, our consciousness is higher frequency, and as that happens, we actually are like fine-tuning our DNA, and so we're having physical changes. But this body, this physical carbon-based body, can only go so high in its frequency. It just really is a denser, you know, this is laws of physics. It's a denser, lower frequency body, and as our entire world begins to, the frequency raises higher and higher and higher, it actually comes to a point that our consciousness really can't even exist in this physical form anymore, and so we will go into this higher light body form, which is a silicon-based, still very physical body, but it is, you know, basically indestructible. I mean, it can be destroyed, but it's, you know, extremely durable and doesn't get sick, and all of that lasts for pretty much ever. And we'll just basically, our consciousness goes into our 5Ds. So I was asking, why, you know, why can't we go into our 5D bodies now? And Arya said, you do it all the time. And I was like, what? And she said, yes, in your sleep. We are exploring, we're going into our 5D bodies, and we're doing it all the time. Now, a lot of people have the ability to remember this when they wake up, and they, you know, they're really more conscious of having been in their 5D, in the higher body, whether they're astral projecting, which, and I'm not really sure, because I think there's a level of 4D consciousness going into kind of a physical, or it's kind of going into a plane that's in between, where you're astral projection, but you're not necessarily all the way into your 5D body or not. I'm not sure. But regardless, you know, we're already doing that. And this is because we're raising our frequency higher and higher. Now, the last video that I just created, watch that, because it really does talk about what are some of the, you know, what are the things that obstruct us in our frequency that are keeping us from our frequency raising higher, and then how do those clear out, and then, you know, why does it seem like I keep coming around to this again? I have a little bit of a nice explanation about that there. But, you know, that's really what's happening right now. We are truly ascending. We're going through this process of our frequency going higher and higher. Now, back to my original point about why tarot cards are a really great place to start for people. And it's where I started, and it's not, of course, not the only way, but it's a good place for people to start to begin to tap into their higher knowing. And that's because the tarot archetypes, as we know, we have, you know, the major arcana, which, you know, starts with the Fool, and then the Magician, and then we have the High Priestess is the number 2, and so on. So these cards are archetypes that are really imprinted into the human psyche. And the reason that they are is that it's actually a basis for our entire, I know at least our solar system, and I think actually even a section of our, maybe even our entire Milky Way galaxy, and I'm not sure, it's been a while since I read about this, but I read it in the Law of One. They actually have quite a lot of information on the archetypes of the tarot, and how those really basically are kind of like the language and the basis of the laws that our sun, our sun is conscious, and it's like it's the one that basically is the decision maker for how things will transpire, progress, and evolve in our solar system. And our sun, had a set of rules and laws and archetypes that are based on those rules and laws of just, how this particular solar system goes. And so if you were to go into other realms, whether they're other star systems or whatever, you would have slightly different, like your archetypes might be a little bit different. But ours, the tarot, the major arcana tarot cards actually are the archetypes that are based on our evolution. And so because of that, the themes that are in those archetypes are there. When we look at those and they come up for us, they resonate. It's the frequency of what we're based on here. And so another reason that the tarot works really well for going into your higher mind is that, and this is something psychologists do all the time, art therapy. And they use pictures, whether the person draws or whether the person is looking at pictures, and those, what they can do is they can bridge over their conscious mind, which has this whole set structure of ideas and beliefs that may or may not be correct based on what subconscious is going on. And so if they want to get into the subconscious mind, they can use pictures and things and then bridge over that. And that's what we actually do with the tarot. And the tarot is a tool of basically helping you look at a situation through pictures, and then pulling out of those pictures all the different kinds of meanings that those pictures might have, different words and phrases that those pictures represent. And you, as an intuitor, you pick out the ones that feel right to you. And then that's how you end up creating a message or insights into a particular, topic or idea. And you see all of that and you're like, aha. And when you get the aha, and you have like that truth resonance within your body, because your body really is also an antenna, and your body will tune into truth. And so you have these cards here that help you bridge over your conscious mind, and you tapped into your unconscious mind, which is also your higher mind, your higher self. So that is the reason that I believe that I was guided to the tarot very early in my experience, because of course, the entire reason all of us are here at this time on Earth's history is to go through the process of ascension. I do fully and firmly believe that the majority of people who are awake and aware right now are starseeds. In other words, they have a soul, that their core soul essence is much older than the average, other 80% of people on Earth whose soul, as this current individuation of source consciousness, has not gone through the process of evolving higher and higher. But there's about 20% of people who volunteered to be reborn on Earth, incarnate on Earth at this time in order to, really take on the energies of the Earth and then ascend through it, because we've done it before and we know how to do it. It's extremely challenging, and I will talk about that in another video, how what we're seeing here on Earth is extremely, I have heard a lot of other sources say from their channeled sources that there's really nowhere that it was ever quite this hard. Such a big challenge is what happened here on Earth. And so, what we're having to deal with is pretty challenging, and that's why so many of us volunteered to come. And right now I would say that, we're kind of at the front of the bell curve of ascension of people coming into it. And so, right now, as if you're moving in through it this direction linearly, then, this right here is the, the 20% star seeds that are, right up about through here, I would say, that are waking up. And we're probably right about here. And then we're going to start seeing, massive a number of people on Earth, going through the awakening. And then as we go farther and farther into it, you're going to have, most of them have finally woken up, and then you'll have those, the stragglers are kind of out through here. And we're going to see that happening. And so those of us who are awake right now, and the reason I'm really wanting to create a community and having an opportunity for us to connect more than ever, is that there's going to be so many more about to come in. And they're going to need the tools. They're going to need the help. They're going to need the energy healers, the Reiki healers, the information, the awakening. And it's just about to hit. You guys, everything that's happening on the political stage right now is all about preparing. I mean, first of all, it's truly the dark to light. And the dark is becoming light everywhere. People who you thought might have been evil before have turned good, and you didn't even know that it happened. Or those who are evil are going to go even more evil because they're not going to be able to transition because they're refusing to allow their frequency to raise. And so but anyway, there's going to be so many more people who are beginning to wake up and who need the help. It's not that it's going to be easier for any individual to go through the process. It's more like we changed the baseline. So the baseline of like where we started in our ascension process was here, but we still had the same distance, right? Okay, but what we're doing is we're raising the baseline. All the people who have gone through the ascension process already are pushing that baseline up so that when these people start waking up, and of course this is really a different graph of two different things here, and I apologize, but what we've done is we've brought the bottom up, and they're giving them a place to to stand that's higher, but it doesn't really mean that it's going to be like easier. They still have to go through their own process, and so much of it is like, it's just what we went through. It's painful, it's grueling, it's in cycles. It's like, what the hell is going on with me? You feel it physically, you feel it emotionally, you feel it in every way. And so I think the only, the difference will be, instead of them being the very few, they're going to look around and they're going to see, like they know 20 people that are going through it, where when we first started our journeys, I didn't know anyone, who was going through what I was going through. It took us, connecting over long distances to find each other. So I do have a lot more to share, so please keep tuning in to my channel, and thank you so much for stopping by. Please like, subscribe, and share these videos, and I know I have something really big coming up that I can't wait to talk to you guys about, but I'm kind of building a foundation for what that is as time goes on. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.